The U.S. Navy required a single-seat attack aircraft during World War II, but by the time the Douglas Aircraft Company delivered the A1 Skyraider, it was too late. The legendary aircraft would go on to successfully serve in the Korean War, and when it arrived in Vietnam in 1964, officials and pilots alike were hesitant about the effectiveness of the 20-year-old model. Still, in an era in which fighter aircraft had replaced pistons for turbines and were able to fly faster than Mach 2, the Skyraider won the hearts of all the soldiers who piloted it, earning a prideful spot in the Vietnam War Hall of Fame. Up to the task. In June of 1944, Douglas Aircraft Company's chief engineer, Edward Heinemann, approached the Navy with a new idea for a torpedo bomber. However, Navy planners rejected his proposal, as the agency required a single-seat attack aircraft designed around the powerful 18-cylinder, 2,500 horsepower Wright R-3350 duplex Cyclone radial engine used by the famous Boeing B-29 Superfortress bomber. Immediately after hearing the news, Heinemann gathered a team of the most outstanding engineers and creatives at Douglas, pulled an all-nighter, and delivered the first sketches of an attack aircraft at the Navy's offices first thing in the morning. By July 6th, the Navy ordered a series of prototypes based on Heinemann's design, Model XBT-2D-1. For the remainder of the year, the plane was built at the Douglas factory in El Segundo, Southern California. The prototype made its maiden flight on March 18, 1945, and by the following month, the United States Navy began a thorough evaluation at the Naval Air Test Center to clear it for production. Skyraider. As World War II neared its end, it became clear that the Douglas aircraft would not be finished in time for combat. After the war, the prototype was renamed A1 Skyraider, following the long-standing Douglas tradition of starting the names of United States Navy aircraft with Sky. The A1 Skyraider received several nicknames during its run. Still, the most enduring ones were SPAD and Super SPAD, derived from the Douglas aircraft's AD designation, and also an allusion to the SPAD S-8, a French biplane fighter aircraft that served during World War I. The Skyraider had excellent low-speed maneuverability and could carry a large amount of ordnance. Moreover, the SPAD's loiter time was quite long in relation to its size, even more so when compared to heavier subsonic or even supersonic aircraft. In addition, the SPAD was optimized for ground attack missions and fitted with armor powerful enough to withstand ground fire, unlike faster fighters that were later adapted to carry bombs, such as the North American P-51 Mustang and the Vought F-4U Corsair. According to historian Don Hallway, quote, "The A-1 Skyraider, the last tail-wheeled airplane in the Navy inventory, was the world's biggest, most powerful prop-driven single-seat combat aircraft, able to lift truly freakish weapons loads, greater than that of a Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress." Korean War. Although the Skyraider was late to World War II, the aircraft became the backbone of Navy aircraft carriers and Marine Corps strike aircraft sorties during the Korean War. The first models went into action from Valley Forge with the VA-55 Attack Squadron in July of 1950. At the time, the SPAD was the only aircraft capable of dropping 8,000 pounds of nuclear payload with dive-bombing precision against challenging targets in Korea, such as mountain bridges and even hydroelectric dams. The aircraft also had a 10-hour-long flying capacity and soon proved its supremacy over most of the jet-fueled aircraft available at the time. On May 2, 1951, a group of Skyraiders made the only aerial torpedo attack of the Korean War when they hit the Hwachun Dam, then controlled by North Korea. Then, on June 16, 1952, a U.S. Marine Corps Skyraider from the Marine Composite Squadron 1, piloted by Major George H. Linnemeyer and Chief Weapons Officer Vernon S. Kramer, successfully shot down a Polikarpov P-02 Soviet-built biplane, the only documented SPAD air victory of the war. During the Korean War, the SPADs were flown by the Navy and the Marine Corps and were commonly painted in dark blue. The aircraft became known as the Blue Plane by North Korean troops. But when used in low-level close support missions, the SPADs suffered heavy losses. To continue using them as attack aircraft without losing so many, additional armor was fitted onto the plane. The armor was made of external aluminum plates half an inch thick, installed on the underside and sides of the SPAD's fuselage. A total of 128 Navy and Marine Corps Skyraiders were lost during the war, of which 101 were in combat and 27 due to operational issues. Arrival in Vietnam. The SPAD remained out of active battle duty for almost a decade, but as the war in Vietnam intensified, the Air Force accepted 150 A-1s. By then, the Skyraider was a 2-decade-old design, leading several American top brass officers to doubt the aircraft's reliability. However, because of the SPAD's ability to carry large bomb loads, absorb heavy ground fire without falling, and fly for long periods at low altitudes, it ended up being particularly suited for Vietnam, especially in close support and search and rescue missions. On August 5, 1964, as the United States became more involved in the Vietnam War after the Gulf of Tonkin incident, SPADs from the USS Constellation and USS Ticonderoga participated in the first U.S. Navy strikes against the North Vietnamese. The squadron struck fuel depots in the city of Vinh. During the operation, one Skyraider from USS Constellation was shot down, claiming the life of Lieutenant Richard Sather. He became the naval aviation's first casualty in Vietnam. Navy and Air Force Skyraiders frequently attacked the Ho Chi Minh supply trail in nighttime missions in groups of 4, choosing routes with minimal threats of anti-aircraft fire. Having no onboard radar, the Skyraiders' crews had to rely solely on their eyes. The Prime Minister's SPAD. In early 1965, South Vietnamese Air Vice Marshal Nguyen Cao Ky led a team of South Vietnamese-owned Skyraiders to halt a coup attempt. The Vice Marshal threatened to release a large payload upon rebels in the capital, but the perpetrators opted to negotiate. According to a later interview with Ky, quote, "I agreed, but launched 2 flights of Skyraiders, 8 aircraft carrying 32 tons of rockets to fly over Saigon. Those planes could remain airloft for 4 or 5 hours. With this move, I both controlled the air over the capital and would be able to quash further hostile troop movements into the city." Ky's SPAD flew cover as American and South Vietnamese troops and tanks took the area back. The Vice Marshal always believed the victory belonged to the mighty Skyraider. He would eventually become the Prime Minister of Vietnam. Later years in Vietnam. In March of 1966, Major Bernard Fisher, a Skyraider pilot of the 1st Air Commando Squadron, saved Major Daffert Myers of the 602nd Fighter Squadron after his own SPAD crash-landed near a troop of North Vietnamese soldiers. This action earned him a Medal of Honor. The Skyraider's rescue missions also frequently turned into aerial combat. On October 9, 1966, when a Navy Phantom went down 20 miles southwest of Hanoi, 4 Skyraiders of Attack Squadron VA-176 flew from the USS Intrepid to provide cover for the rescue attempt. In the ensuing dogfight, in which 4 MiG-17s also intervened, the lead SPADs damaged 1 MiG and possibly another. 2 years later, in September of 1968, Lieutenant Colonel William A. Jones III from the 602nd Special Operations Squadron took charge of a rescue at Dong Hoi on the North Vietnamese coast and saved a fellow pilot. He also earned a Medal of Honor. Ultimately, it wasn't the Soviet-built MiGs that put an end to the Skyraider as a top-tier attack aircraft, but rather the expanding American warplane inventory. As turbine-powered birds such as the Grumman A-6 Intruder and the LTV A-7 Corsair II won the U.S. Armed Forces over, aircraft carriers needed tanks for their kerosene-based jet fuel, leaving no space for the aviation gasoline burned by the Skyraider. By the late 1960s, the United States had already begun drawing down all their forces in Vietnam. In November of 1972, the Air Force's Skyraiders flew their last mission, keeping the North Vietnamese away from the crash site of an Army UH-1 Iroquois Huey helicopter near Quang Tri, with 7 survivors. The following year, the Air Force handed the remaining SPADs to the South Vietnamese Army, which used them in the last-ditch fighting during the North Spring Offensive in 1975, successfully ending the communist invasion of Saigon. A flying anachronism. A total of 3,180 Skyraiders were built by Douglas Aircraft Company. It had around 30 different variations and was successfully adapted to perform in several roles. Over its almost 3-decade-long service, the SPAD served as carrier or land-based aircraft and 24-hour attack bombers. It also performed photographic reconnaissance, electronic countermeasures, airborne early warning, and search missions. To this day, top warplanners still see the need for a similar low-cost, slow-moving aircraft for counterinsurgency, aerial reconnaissance, and close air support missions in lower-threat environments. Experts claim that an aircraft similar to the SPAD would be helpful against the Islamic State and other terrorist organizations in Africa and the Middle East. However, even if the U.S. Armed Forces decide to acquire or develop a plane with similar capabilities to the SPAD, it would only be used in permissive airspace. And still, it would likely be no match to the legendary AD-1 attack aircraft and its pilots. Former AD-1 pilot Captain Richard Drury told Vietnam Magazine that, quote, "We were flying anachronisms, piloting SPADs through a supersonic world, tasting the thunderstorms at 8,000 feet when an SR-71 supersonic spy plane was hitting 3 times the speed of sound above 70,000 feet. It was a ludicrous situation, but one I applauded. Some of the greatest and most dangerous and heroic flying ever done was right there, in old A1 Skyraiders. Thank you for watching our Dark Skies video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified of our latest content. And comment below on your favorite aircraft of the Vietnam War.